The sound of shattering glass pierced the hum of lunchtime chatter. The diner froze. A wine bottle rolled across the black and white tiled floor, spilling a slow stream of red that spread like blood. In the center of it all, a woman in a light blue dress knelt, trembling, one hand clutching her pregnant belly, the other trying to shield her face. Above her, a man stood with a black leather belt coiled in his hand like a serpent. His expensive watch gleamed under the chrome lights, a cruel reflection of power turned into violence. The man was Victor Hale, a billionaire CEO whose face often graced business magazines among the world admired for his empire. But the woman at his feet knew the monster behind the smile. If you believe that kindness, courage, and standing up for what's right can still change the world, please take a second to like, comment, share, and subscribe to Kind Soul Stories. Every small act of support helps stories like this reach hearts that need to hear them. Her name was Alina. She had once believed in fairy tales that love could conquer cruelty, that success could mean safety. But months of quiet bruises and whispered apologies had taught her otherwise. And now, inside this bright, bustling diner on a quiet Thursday afternoon, her world shattered completely. Victor's face was cold, his tone low and venomous. He didn't care about the eyes watching from the booths, or the way his wife's tears darkened the fabric of her dress. He was used to control in boardrooms, in business, and at home. Power was his comfort. Fear was his weapon. The other customers sat paralyzed. Some turned away. Others stared at their plates, pretending not to see. The waitresses near the counter froze mid-step, unsure whether to call someone or hide. The air was heavy with silent shame, the kind that comes when good people watch evil and do nothing. Alina tried to stand, her hand shaking as she reached for the edge of a booth. But Victor's voice boomed again, echoing through the diner. "Sit down," he barked. She stumbled, her knees scraping the tile, her tears mixing with the spilled wine, and then he lifted the belt. The sound of leather slicing the air made every heart stop. But before it could fall, before another blow could strike, the glass door of the diner swung open. The faint growl of motorcycle engines had gone unnoticed until then. The jingling bell above the door rang once, twice, and then fell silent. The scent of motor oil and wind followed as 5 men stepped in, their boots heavy on the floor, their eyes burning with purpose. The patches on their black vests read Hell's Angels. At their center was a man named Ryder Cole. He was tall, broad-shouldered, his beard streaked with gray, his gaze calm but dangerous. He had lived enough life to recognize the face of cruelty. He'd seen it in alleys, bars, and sometimes in mirrors. But this, a man raising his hand to a pregnant woman in public, that was a line no real man crossed. Victor turned, startled but still defiant. The belt dangled from his grip. "This doesn't concern you," he spat, his voice laced with arrogance. But the bikers didn't answer. They just kept walking, slow and deliberate, boots thewing against the checkered floor. The diner was dead silent except for their footsteps. The waitresses moved aside. Even the air seemed to pause. Alina looked up through her tears, her breathing ragged. Weeder met her eyes, and in that split second she saw something she hadn't felt in months. Protection. Ryder stopped just a few feet away from Victor. He didn't need to shout. His presence said everything. His voice, when it came, was low, steady, and sharp enough to cut steel. "Put it down." Victor hesitated, trying to laugh it off. "You don't know who I am." Ryder's expression didn't change. "I don't care who you are. You touch her again and you'll find out who we are." The other bikers fanned out behind him, silent, watching. Their eyes locked on Victor, each one daring him to move. One of them gently stepped forward and helped Alina to her feet. Her legs trembled, but she stood, her hand on her belly, her other hand gripping the biker's arm for balance. Victor's bravado began to crumble. His eyes darted between the men, calculating his chances. He was powerful in boardrooms, untouchable in skyscrapers. But here, surrounded by men who live by loyalty, not money, he was small. He dropped the belt. It hit the floor with a dull thud, the sound of defeat. The bikers didn't touch him. They didn't have to. The silence, the weight of their presence, and the quiet shame of the onlookers did what no punch could do. Victor turned, furious and humiliated, and stormed out of the diner, slamming the door behind him. The sound echoed like justice. Ryder knelt beside Alina. "You safe now?" he asked softly. She nodded through her tears, unable to speak. One of the waitresses brought her a glass of water, and another draped a towel over her shoulders. Slowly, the diner came back to life. People whispered. Someone wiped the spilled wine. The broken glass was swept away, but something deeper had shifted. The room no longer felt cold with fear. Ryder stood and looked around at the other patrons, his voice calm but firm. Don't ever sit quiet when you see something like that. Silence protects the wrong people. Then he turned back toward the door. The bikers walked out the same way they came in, steady, quiet, leaving behind a space that suddenly felt a little safer. Outside, the motorcycles roared to life. Alina stepped to the window, watching them ride away into the sunlight. Her reflection in the glass looked different now, still fragile, still healing, but alive. For the first time in a long while, she felt a flicker of strength and gratitude for strangers who became angels when she needed them most. Sometimes heroes don't wear suits or capes. Sometimes they wear leather, ride steel, and carry the courage the rest of the world forgets to use. If this story touched your heart, if you believe courage can come from the most unexpected places, please like, share, and subscribe to Kind Soul Stories. Let's spread the message that standing up for others still matters. Comment below what would you have done if you were in that diner. And remember, kindness doesn't always look gentle. Sometimes it looks like strength. Sometimes it walks in wearing a leather vest and says, "Touch her again. I dare you."